Yeah, it's some bad stuff.
Some cop was pepper spraying someone, and someone just jumps from like a roof, basically, and just
I wonder.
movie style kicks the cop in the head.
Yeah, are the cops from Hong Kong?
Bleep that.
You got it. Are the cops from Hong Kong? It's because I'm trying to say cop in Hong Kong, and there's something.
Are the cops from Hong Kong or China?
Yeah, or mainland. Yeah.
I don't know.
Here we are. Another day, another podcast.
Episode 24.
24?
I'm basing that off of our thumbnail last week said episode 23. So, Angel, if you got that wrong, I look stupid.
I'm a goofball. How many before we break 1 million subscribers? No, I'm kidding.
1 million podcasts.
1 million podcasts. So this week, I just watched this. It's a bummer because Mark Zuckerberg went in front of Congress. And I think there's a lot of interesting stuff to talk about there. Now, okay. I unfortunately did not watch anywhere near the full 6 hours of testimony. I saw highlights, and those can always be taken out of context. And so I'm going to try my best to characterize accurately what I saw. Mm-hmm. So the first one that I watched was highly distributed from this particular one. Probably the biggest clip was him and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And she seems to be grilling him in this with regards to the lying policy on Facebook. And she asks him, are you going to regulate lying on Facebook? Mm-hmm. And he basically says, well, no, that's not what we're doing. And she says, so for instance, I could go on and say, okay, I could target zip codes of my opposition. She says, in this case, black zip codes. A Republican could do this in her view and give the wrong date of the election and say, hey, everybody show up November 15th or whatever. And he says, no, you couldn't do that because we have policies against voter suppression, calls for violence, etc. So she says, oh, you are going to regulate lies. He says, well, within this particular band. Mm-hmm. And she says, well, okay, what if I went in? Oh, God, what's the other example that she gives? I wish I had it. But she talks about essentially something that she would categorize under spin. Mm. Okay, what if I went in and said that, oh, this person voted, here's what it is, that a Republican voted for the Green New Deal. Could I publicize that whether they did or they didn't? That's not on their voting record. And he says, well, I don't think people should lie, but that at that point we don't want to get involved with. And she seems to indicate that that's wrong, that he should stop lies, as if there is a category of things that are 100% objective truths, another category of things that can be spun and which should be allowed. Yeah. And
dude, that would give Facebook so much power to control the definition of the truth.
I was like, wait a second. Are we breaking these guys up for being a monopoly, or are we handing them the keys to the kingdom? Yeah. Why would, in God's name, would you want them regulating what is true? That seems insane. And I know it's not a great possibility to have untruths spread rampantly, but it's so much better than having Facebook.
Yeah, weirdly enough, Zuckerberg would love that because then politics. You know how lobbyists have to give corporations money?
Yeah.
He'd get so much lobbyist money. He's like, listen, I get to define what is true about every political Facebook ad. It runs through my team, and we go, that's a lie. Lobbyists, you want to take a shot at buying me off?
Yeah. Well, I believe her perspective is that there are camps of things that are factually true and false.
Sure, of course.
And then there's spin, and you're supposed to allow spin but stop factual untruths. Yes. To which I say, okay,
everyone would have a different definition.
Exactly. Let me give you
categories.
She gave this example. Okay. What if I put up an ad that says, "Hey, the election is open. It's say the election is on November 8th. I say it's open November 9th." Australia AST standard time, which whatever it is. And that's true. That is a fact, except people don't know to look for the AST or whatever standardized.
And it's super small.
And it's 100% true.
Yeah.
But it effectively is deceptive. Is that spin or is that a lie? Because you can defend that in the literal perspective, and that does exactly what you are fearful it could do. Yeah. So please don't ask Mark Zuckerberg and his company to be regulating what is true. As awful as it is, I think we're in a scenario where it's people with megaphones shouting and money that makes a bigger megaphone. But you just gotta count on truth winning, because God forbid Mark Zuckerberg and his team are the arbiters of what's true.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So that was the one thing, and I don't know if that was what she was driving at. She never actually has a thesis statement where she says you should. I'm reading into it. Was just a clip I saw, her tone of voice, and it sounded critical of the fact that he was not doing that, and I was blown away, baffled. And then the other thing that you just heard was there's a congresswoman, I'm not sure exactly who, is asking him about the people who work at his company who apparently 15,000 contractors are screening for disgusting murder, just things that they kick off the platform because these violate the violence or whatever clause.
15,000 people.
Apparently 15,000 contractors. Wow. Isn't that insane?
That's a lot of people.
And she describes that, they only make, I think, $30,000 a year, and they get 9 minutes a day to go cry about this, and it's terrible work conditions is basically what she's saying.
Yeah.
Would
you do 8 hours a day for 5 days a week?
They're contractors, so maybe not. I don't know. I'm sure that it's not a full characterization of.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just curious
of what it is. In any event, she asks him, "Would you be willing to spend an hour a day for the next year doing this job?" And he says, "I don't think that would be a good use of my time." Yeah. And she says, "Are you saying you're not qualified?" He goes, "No, that's not what I'm saying."
Yeah, I'm saying I'm Mark Zuckerberg, and I'm trying to run this $1 trillion company.
And again, it's just. I think there's I've seen this with Mark Zuckerberg. He gets so much flack.
Dude, I wanted to bring this up. So this committee, some parts of it seemed like it was, you said Republican people or Democratic people who thought they were playing the other side.
So here's what happens from what I saw. Everybody has a different grievance, which they bring in there. And some of them who like Zuckerberg probably just say nice things to him and throw him softballs.
Yeah.
Some of them talk about cryptocurrency, and some of the questions that I saw were important questions to me about, okay, if Facebook has a cryptocurrency, what does this mean? How should we regulate this? Wait a second, you don't want to be treated as a bank. Explain to me why you shouldn't be treated as a bank with the regulations that we impose on banks who are issuing currency, right?
Yeah.
I guess there's only one bank that issues currency, but... And then there's some that are just there to yell at him, scold him. Yeah, it seems like. Well, so everybody's got their own agenda.
I think Zuckerberg just suffers brutally because people don't like him.
I agree.
His lack of charisma really hurts him because I saw there was complaints from Republicans that his company is very Democrat. It leans very liberal. It's a tech company. So the Republicans were very upset about that. Then I think he was having conversations with Republicans.
That was a question that was in here.
Just to talk to the other side, so he wasn't such an echo chamber.
Yeah.
And then the Democrats were complaining because he was talking to Republicans. I don't think there was a complaint above that. I mean, I looked into it a little bit. So it just seemed like...
I think it was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, don't quote me because I just watched some of the clips, who asks him... when you sat down with these, it might have been someone else. When you sat down with these people, did you discuss the bias? Did you just and the tone that it was asked in was, these are your pals. You're in cahoots with these, and they're alt-right types.
No, he can just do no right. I actually Googled Mark Zuckerberg, Google Newsed him because I was trying to figure out what these Republican meetings were.
Yeah.
But I struggled to find it because there were so many other articles about other issues, about other things people hate about him. Mm-hmm. And I think back to Steve Jobs, who had literal factory workers committing suicide every day.
I don't know if it was every day. Gotta hold the phone on that one.
And no one cared. Yeah. Everyone's just like, Steve Jobs is genius. And Jeff Bezos, I think it was, where if he emails you a question mark, you're basically about to get fired, right? If you
somebody said
if sometime. He gets CC'd on an email and you get a question mark back from him, start to panic. Like it doesn't seem like a stress-free, fun environment.
Well, what I've heard about Amazon from the people that work
Zuckerberg.
There, Amazon has a lot of. I have a family member that works there. I have a friend. They grind hard, and it is a grindy culture. So,
but nobody really cares. Yeah. Honestly, Jeff Bezos' divorce even didn't really seem that slanderous. They're mostly just talking about his the amount that he should pay his wife.
Yes,
but no one seemed to be like, "Oh my God, I'm going to stop using Amazon because the founder is a." Philanderer, is adultering. Mm-hmm. If Mark Zuckerberg got caught cheating, the world would explode with hate for him. You know what I mean? Like the dude just seems like people hate him.
Yeah, I agree. We made the thumbnail of the video we have is why Zuck seems evil. Yeah, right. It's not that I don't think he is, and that was kind of the point that I made. Is I ultimately don't know, but.
It does highlight the importance of charisma.
Well, clearly it's a movie, but I think of the Iron Man 2 Congress scene where, like, It's a movie. It's scripted, but there you could imagine a world at least where somebody came in with panache and zingers and one-upped and
sure Trump would get in there and
well, people would also be gunning for his head today, but it's just not him.
Yeah.
And he is not that guy, and he just gets piled on by everybody and is despised. He's somebody that I think would benefit from a little bit more training in this area tremendously. So those were a couple of things, but the implication about the one where, these workers are in such terrible spaces and, why don't you do it, is the thing that I don't like about these hearings is that everything about it, as I guess it needs to be, is asymmetrical. They're all elevated. They're surrounding him as he faces them. And the same question could be asked of this congresswoman, which is like, look, there's someone in your district who's a trash man. That's a government employee of which you are at the very top of this hierarchy. Yeah. Would you be willing to spend 1 hour a day picking up trash with the garbage men for a year? Would you be, okay, there's someone in your office who opens mail. Would you do that for an hour a day? It's such there's no instinct to self-reflectively ask the question because of the asymmetry in that, because he can't say anything to you.
Well, and he's not the kind of guy that's going to fire back with that.
Yeah.
Someone would say, with all due respect, would you work in your mailroom for an hour, or would you, whatever it is, someone would say it, but it's not Zuckerberg.
Well, what they do is they do silence pretty quick. This is my time. The asymmetry of the scenario creates that, and I think it's unfortunate because, listen, clearly, I'm not saying Mark Zuckerberg's a perfect guy. I'm not saying we want to have Facebook with a currency or anything like that, but there's abuses going on both sides of this room, and it would be really interesting if the questions that you had for him were asked with such earnestness of yourselves, right? Why wouldn't the owner of an organization spend an hour a day on the front line? Should the owner of that's an interesting question. I don't know that there's an obvious immediate answer. I can see arguments for both sides, but to not ask yourself the same question.
Should every CEO do it? Should every manager do it? Because if not, why should this one guy do it?
Yes. And again, it just seems, I guess there's political points to be scored if you can, if your district has a feeling about Mark Zuckerberg and you can get a couple
That'd be an interesting rule. If every person just had to do the worst job of the people they manage for an hour a week. Mm-hmm. That would be pretty fascinating.
And I'm not convinced it's a terrible idea.
No, I'm not either.
Yeah.
You just can't make just Mark Zuckerberg do it.
Yeah.
You got to make everyone do it.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't an hour a week. It was an hour a day, which is...
Oh, geez.
I think this would hurt the company at some
That would
level.
hurt every company, yeah.
So I unfortunately didn't get to watch the whole thing. I'm sure there's more to it, but just an interesting setup whereby he goes and... kneels before and
kiss the ring.
Yeah, and is chastised and has his head pat by some people. Just to be clear,
it's not the wrong call. If that were me, I would not be going, how do I get on the highlight reel with some zingers? I'd be like, all right, what do I have to do to get out of here, get what I need for my company, and escape from this I don't even know what to call it, Inquisition type situation. Well, I might just go kiss the ring too.
Bill Gates said, they asked him in this documentary that I saw about the first time that Microsoft was, pulled in front for monopoly practices. Yeah. And he said, these were 8-hour days where I was grilled, but there were moments where I got terse and I was short with them and borderline rude. And this was at the very beginning of they were recorded depositions, but never before had they taken 2 minutes and clipped everything and put all of my most terse, rude moments together.
Yeah, he said he had to do 3 8-hour days, right?
Something like 3 days of stuff.
A 15-minute video of him just being a dick. And he's like, there was another 23 hours and 45 minutes.
Where I responded.
I was really supplicative.
Yeah.
Like, this was not the whole tone. And everyone's just like, boo, Bill Gates.
Well, and he said that tone had a huge... one in them pursuing the case further, and then they actually lost the first one. They had to fight it, and then he stepped down. It was arguably the reason that Bill Gates left Microsoft and started the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Interesting.
Was because of these type of experiences, and that it just consumed his life for a while. So yeah, I think from Mark's perspective, the fact that he looks like a whipping boy for...
it's not the wrong call.
It's not necessary.
It's not. I'm saying I might do the same.
Yeah.
I might just go, okay.
He might be smarter than I. Yeah. Because I'd fire back, man.
I don't think I would.
It'd be too hard for me to
log
sit there.
Away, ma'am.
Yeah. How's Summer doing over here?
She's fine. I don't know if people can hear her jingling, but
she's having a good time. We got
happy to sit on the couch.
Yeah.
Should I bring her up to the audience?
Say hello.
She's gotten bigger, everyone. Look at this little terror. Hi, girl. She's 13 pounds now. You want to say something to the audience? Very good, girl. You're our first guest. You did a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. So
that's the jingling.
The other thing that I saw this week, again, I'm sure you didn't see it, was a YouTube Shane Dawson, Jeffree Star.
Oh, interesting. I saw a different YouTube thing, but not this.
So, do you know who Jeffree Star is?
Yeah, of course.
So Shane Dawson made conspiracy videos a lot of, and I made a video on him. He is a powerful storyteller in the medium of video. Music, the tone, the gasp.
He's also become one of those people that gets more views than most mainstream TV.
Yes.
There's like a list of YouTubers, and it's growing, which is incredible to me, where you can put on a major TV show and Shane Dawson gets more views per episode.
20 million views an episode.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And that's not to mention social engagement, all these other things. So
go ahead.
I didn't watch the whole thing. Jeffree Star, another guy, big in the beauty community, has makeup, is worth millions and millions of dollars. And I watched just one episode that was titled The $20 Million Deal or something like that. And it's fascinating because if you zoom out what this is, and they make no bones about it, they're on call documenting the release of Shane Dawson's new makeup line. And this entire series is, it's about friendship, but it's like, here's what they do in this episode. They start choosing Shane's logo. He doesn't like the first logo. Very dramatic. Then they go around, they check out some of the palettes, they name some of the palettes, they look at them, they show them all on screen with the...
So it's a 20 million viewed advertisement.
20 million views of advertising with no, and I don't mean that there should be, no shame. He's on the call talking to these people, and Jeffree's like, listen, you got to get your worth, you got to get your money from these people. And he's on the phone with them. This one company is negotiating an exclusive deal. And he says, look, if we're going to do an exclusive, we're documenting this whole thing. We're going to show this call. This is going to move units. This is big. And as a viewer, I'm sitting there going, wait a second. Here I am seeing how the sausage is made. You're telling these people that you're going to make money, selling me the content that I'm watching right now when I buy your thing.
Shane, and by the way, I would do something similar, probably not as well, but Shane is the master of knowing what his viewers' emotional reaction will be to what he's showing. So this isn't just a random documentary. This was a cultivated to sell you this makeup documentary about the makeup.
Sure. And what I think is impressive is it's not underhanded at all. What you have to give it extreme credit for is, I don't know how much more flagrantly honest it could be about the fact that this is...
How long was it?
So it's several episodes, all of which are approximately an hour.
So it's like a 3-hour commercial.
No. It's more than 3. It's going to wind up... It comes out on November 1st is when it drops. But
incredible.
It's a multi-week running pre-sell of his thing. And
I'm always impressed by people like that. Like Aaron Moreno.
He
sells so hard in his videos, his Alpha M videos. And his audience is just cool with it. It's a meme.
Yeah.
Like, it's totally... It's a brilliant. He's just made it something people look forward to.
Yeah.
Is him... selling them stuff.
Yeah. So no shade. I was just shocked. And I think this is the future. And I talked about this in the Logan Paul video where the content becomes the advertisement. And it's different than Transformers. Transformers came out and it was all product placement. But ostensibly there was a story of Decepticons and whatever the opposite.
Oh yeah, Logan Paul's videos, sometimes the plot is the merchandise.
It's the merchandise. Yeah. And in these videos, the plot is making the sale and selling the makeup. And I just sat there with slack-jawed, just completely blown away of... I'm not even trying to add a value judgment, though I guess I do have one when I think of the consumerist nature of makeup generally. But holding that to the side, that people can be made so eager to watch what essentially amounts to an advertisement to make them crave a product, which, again, to be fair, when they get, will be the most stoked thing ever.
Yeah.
It's going to be incredible. You know, they're going to be so happy when that pallet comes in the mail. So I was just blown away by it.
Yeah. It's great. And they're all really smart people. I think that's the interesting thing is people will have criticisms about all these people, Logan Paul, Shane Dawson, Jeffree Star. I don't know all the criticisms. Some of them are probably fair. But people will say things like, oh, these guys are idiots. The only reason they're successful is because their audience is idiots. These people are really smart. They're smarter than us. They're savvy business people, and that's why they're so successful.
And I think, well, smart is a very broad word, but what I would say is when it comes to content creation, there is no one better out there, and I don't just mean Shane. I mean Logan is brilliant, and if you can't recognize that from the results that he's gotten, like they create things, and it's not just for dumb teenagers.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of like saying that Sean Marion is a bad shooter. He's a basketball player.
Yeah.
And he has a very funny shot.
Yeah.
And if you just watched his shot, you'd be like, this guy's a scrub. But he was an NBA All-Star. And to me, it's like you can say that certain things these people say are dumb, or you can say you would disagree with certain things. But when you look at the ball go in the hoop over and over and over and over and over, to me, I have to go, yeah, these guys are smart. They're smart at something. They're smart marketers. They're smart business people. How else could they be self-made millionaires?
Sorry, it's always just
yeah. She's freaking out.
Do you want to grab her? Yeah.
There we go. All right. We're trying a new tactic to calm down Summer.
It's called the bone in hand.
Bone in hand.
We'll see how this works. I predict 35 seconds.
What's funny is if I take her on an airplane, she'll sleep for 14 hours.
Yeah.
She just has certain areas. It's like our house with you guys around. And you two, she loves you and she loves Angel. You guys hype her up.
I can't take my dog on an airplane. I'm too afraid.
Because he howls?
He's technically, I got him the service dog designation, which is you just fill out a form and you put on a vest, and he's a service dog now. A support dog.
Emotional support. Very different.
Very different. Sorry, very different. Not a service dog. Service dog
emotional
support.
Training.
But I just want to make sure that he doesn't emotionally support me to lose my mind on
an airplane. No, it's so weird. I'm lucky, I guess. She'll sit on my lap. We did a flight. It was 14 hours door to door. It was a car ride to the airport. Got to the airport early. Flew to Charlotte. Layover. Fly to Norfolk, Virginia. 2-hour car ride. And she just sits in my lap the whole time. But then on this podcast, she gets so lit.
Too lit, man. It's too interesting.
She loves it, dude. As soon as we started talking about Zuck, she was just
she just gets fired up.
Oh, my God.
I love that guy. So the other thing that I have, other than, Shane and Mark, is Jordan Peterson. Mm-hmm. I watched an interview, but also there's a documentary coming out on Jordan Peterson, which is interesting. They started filming because of some random thing back in like 2016. And happened to be there
when he got famous
for everything.
Wow.
So there were cameras.
That's awesome.
There were documenting cameras on him behind the scenes of a lot of this stuff. And it's called Rise, and I haven't seen it, but I'm sure it'll be engaging. Apparently there's theaters, and you never know how common this is. It just could be one person that are getting threats, and some are not planning on showing it because fascism isn't welcome in so-and-so town.
Most small documentaries don't get shown in theaters anyway.
It doesn't need to be, is the truth. Just release this to stream. I don't know why you think you need to screen this much. People, you don't need to show up to buy it. But I also watched another interview with him, which I believe was filmed a while ago. He did not look well in the interview. I think it was because his wife had cancer at the time of the filming. I could be wrong.
Oh, did she recover?
No. So what she had was a diagnosis that was terminal, and surprisingly, it wound up they're saying, "Oh no, she's going to recover."
Wow.
So then he was on medications for anxiety, Klonopin.
Yeah, of course, that's devastating.
Yeah, and now he's in rehab for that. But I believe this was filmed prior to all of this. But it was interesting. He talks about social media getting to him, which was interesting.
And no one's immune.
Yeah, and I was like, wow, here is a man who did not grow up with social media. This is not in his DNA. Who, by his own account, which I believe, he says, I've never had a negative interaction with a person. I've had negative interactions. I mean, I count them. Like, as I had journalist interactions have gone negatively, and online interactions have gone negatively.
Well, and student protests where people scream at them.
Sure, and student protests. But in terms of people approaching me,
even
if it was a journalist by trade, it's always been positive. But he seemed deeply, at least in this moment, affected by the Twitter storm that can be whipped up. And I was like, wow, that is fascinating. I wonder who if anyone, because I imagine that the Dan Bilzerians of the world have achieved a state of.
I don't think so. I think it bothers Dan sometimes.
You do?
Yeah, I do.
Because he gets like chicken leg stuff, right? People tease his calves. People tease his.
Oh, people hate on him. People think he's the worst person on the planet. Someone is sending him death threats, and I'm sure that some of it is irritating. Gets to him.
I wonder. Because he is so out there. He seems to have adjusted none to it. Maybe he doesn't read his comments because there's too many to come in. And I've only seen a handful of interviews with him, but he seems relatively unaffected by it. I wonder if I'd be curious if there's a temperament that makes one more or less likely to handle that. But I thought my thesis was, if somebody's older and they've gone through their formative years without this, they can see this for the addendum to life that it is and not the core of life. If this isn't your entire junior high social circle, you'll survive it. And I was like, oh, wow, this is a guy that...
No, people aren't used to getting this much hate.
Yeah, and it's still...
And by people, I just mean humans, evolution-wise. We're just not ready for this.
There were never 1,000 people to hate you.
Yeah.
There was only a handful. And so when there are 1,000, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I must have pissed off my tribe and the neighboring tribe.
I'm going to die. My life is ending.
So I thought that was interesting. Let me see if there's anything else that I brought to us this week.
I got a couple things.
Well, yeah, hit me.
Okay, so random news. I have no take on this. I just thought you'd think it was interesting or funny. The power of greed. Apple's lawyer, who was in charge of preventing and policing insider trading, was found insider trading Apple stock, which is just fascinating because money will corrupt. That's my only takeaway, is this dude's entire job was to not have insider trading, and he got fired and now is having charges pressed on him for insider trading.
Do you know if he worked at Apple? If he was independent? He was an Apple guy.
Yeah.
Well, I think I would be curious. I do think that corruption and law breaking and infractions are predictable. And if that happens, what is it? You don't go, oh, bad Apple. You go, okay, probably we have a system that is somehow incentivizing, not double checking, creating this sort of environment with more than just this guy. And this would be the tip of the iceberg. So I don't know any of the rules around how this stuff is policed, but whenever you have the person who is doing the reporting being like the person who's checking the reporting in a business, if the person who's counting the money is also handling the money, bars know not to do this. You don't let your bartenders do all the accounting because all of a sudden...
Dude, the manager at our favorite smoothie place was apparently stealing and embezzling tons of money every day.
We went in every day. You talk basketball with him. Super nice dude.
Just robbed the place blind every day.
Yeah, and what was his scheme? And it was the same sort of thing. He had the books.
Yeah, and he was in charge at the end of the day of making sure the cash in the register matched the receipts.
Yep.
But there was a weird thing with the online receipts where they had to be transcribed to the physical receipts.
Yep.
And so he just knew, well, if I just say this person got extra berries or whatever, then they're not going to check the berry inventory because sometimes berries go bad, and I'll just take the difference. I'll take the $1.
Yep.
And I think it probably started small, but they said by the end it was just like $30, $50 every single day.
No, it was more than that. They said he was like doubling his hourly wage essentially. With here's $1, here's $1, here's $1, here's $1, here's $1. Okay, I'm making now $25-$30 an hour instead of 15 or whatever. And fascinating, man. That where else did that happen? Oh, we had a friend in high school who worked at McDonald's. Same exact scheme.
Yeah.
Would take coupons and say that someone gave a coupon or something. I don't know all the logistics, but when you have the person handling the money, doing the accounting, that is a system that is going to break.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure that there's these type of things in the financial world, which is, look, when you give this guy 2 roles and he wears 2 hats, he's going to embezzle or steal or do something like that. So
it just reminded me of that meme, the one where it's like, you had one job. It's like, you had one job.
Not to do that. Well, what it makes me think is, okay, I wonder what structural changes need to be made.
Yeah.
It's possible that you just have one.
Are you saying the fact that we have a guy who pays himself from our accounts is a bad idea?
Well, we do have a guy who runs it. Yeah, we have a tremendous, and I break this rule. I have a tremendous amount of faith in you. Like I've
Yeah, it's awesome. You never look at our bank accounts.
No, I would never advise someone to run a business the way that I do.
I just tell you what you're going to make each month. You go, okay.
Yeah, no double checking. You run the money and the distributions.
Yeah.
And we have someone else who pays our team. Now, I guess the system that you would say that I have set up is I have seen you be honest to your own detriment in a number of areas of your own life. Not exactly this amount of money, but like I've seen you tell people hard truths. I've seen this person do the same thing. I've seen this person dock his own pay. I've seen this person admit to things that were not worth it for him. So my system is, okay, once you've entered a circle where I feel I can trust you because I have seen you do the right, honest thing at your own expense, then I gave you greater leeway. Maybe we'll see how that works. I'll let you guys, podcast viewers, know in a couple of years.
Guys, Ben was embezzling.
The business was stolen right off.
Well, you know me well enough to know I'd rather have our friendship than have more money. That's what you're banking on.
It'd be a long con for you.
Yeah. Started when we were 15 years old in Spanish class.
It'd be a very long con.
This guy is going to be a famous YouTuber one day.
Yes.
And you went, what's YouTube? It's not invented yet. I went, yeah, just wait.
This is when I skipped your bar mitzvah. You're like, that
guy.
Mother.
I will befriend him for decades and then screw him.
I was supposed to get a check for a multiple of 18.
For $18.
Or 36. So yeah.
You were an $18 friend back then, though, let's be honest.
No, I was a $36 friend at bar mitzvahs.
Really? Man,
I splurged.
What was I thinking? I did invite you.
There were some $54 friends even back in the day.
Jeez Louise.
Do you never had a $54 friend?
I don't know. My mom was writing the checks. I was 12.
I got it. Yeah. So I was like, for regular friends, I was a $20 friend. But then bar mitzvahs it's a genius. It's a genius thing. It's like, well, you could give 18 or 36.
Oh, most people give 18.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I bet you the amount made back on the few 36s that come in is worth the ding.
Yeah. Makes up for 9 people giving 18.
Yeah. It's genius.
Quick math.
Quick math. So what else you got?
Yeah, the Hong Kong thing. Did you see the update? Hong Kong extradition bill got withdrawn.
Really?
Yep. So they're saying don't get too excited because it'll probably just try to get snuck into a bill in 3 months. Mm-hmm. But at first I thought this was a big win. I was like, oh, wow, they did it. This is what the protests are about. Except because the protests have been going so poorly, Hong Kong protesters have said they have 5 demands and they won't stop protesting until all 5 are met.
Yeah.
The first was to withdraw the extradition bill, but they also want everyone who's in prison for protesting to be released and an independent investigation on police brutality because they say police officers were beating people.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting because this bill got suggested, protests ensued to say the bill has to be removed. The bill is removed, but the protests at this point cannot stop because there's been so much injury, jail time, etc. because of the protests, and they don't want to leave anyone behind, basically. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I don't know how it's going to end because now I
know how it's going to end. China's going to get everything they want. I mean, come on. When you have
26 years.
Within 26 years. Let's put it that way. I would bet in a shorter time frame than that.
Sure.
When you have an unstoppable force, and this is not an immovable rock. This is a loosely organized group of protesters. The unstoppable force will win.
I just thought we should cap off. We've talked about Hong Kong so much. I thought we should just cap off. The bill was withdrawn, but the protests will continue.
Well, it's interesting because, once the first, and I know they're not saying there was a handful of shots, but metaphorical shot is fired you can't unbreak the vase.
Sure.
It's, okay, we will, well, guess what? There's collateral that has occurred. And on both sides, I'm sure there's injured police officers.
No doubt.
No doubt.
I saw a guy get jumping reverse head kicked.
Yeah, it's some bad stuff.
Some cop was pepper spraying someone, and someone just jumps from like a roof, basically, and just
movie
style kicks the cop in the head.
Yeah, are the cops from Hong Kong?
Bleep that.
You got it. Are the cops from Hong Kong? It's because I'm trying to say cop and Hong Kong, and there's something.
Are the cops from Hong Kong or China?
Yeah, or mainland. Yeah,
I don't know.
Because it would be, I guess it's always a shame, but even more of a shame if these are. You're all from Hong Kong, guys.
I think it's Hong Kong.
Yeah, that'd be even.
But the government's very confused because there's some Hong Kong pro-independent people, but the government has a lot of let's get absorbed to mainland China people because of the way the voting's been set up.
Got it. Yeah.
So anyway, I just thought that was interesting because I saw that the bill got withdrawn. I said, wow, they won. And then I read it. I was like, ooh, this is
not so good.
We're in like the 3rd inning now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think I know how the game will end, but we'll see what unfolds.
Yeah.
Interesting. What else? I know you had one more thing.
Yeah, man. So this is some personal. I have a fan question. I'm a fan. So
I have a fan question.
So yeah, I've been seeing this woman for a little over a year, very casually. Not exclusive. We hang out like maybe once a week. And the reason that it's been so casual is because we both agree we're not good long-term partners for each other. So we like each other. We enjoy hanging out. Let's hang out for fun. but this isn't going to head towards boyfriend-girlfriend marriage because it's not a good long-term fit for what we want.
Well, you don't really want boyfriend-girlfriend marriage kids.
Correct.
And she would like boyfriend-girlfriend to marriage to children.
Yeah. Well, if she felt the same way I do and wasn't necessarily interested in that stuff, then it would be a different math, right? But so that unfortunately didn't work. We both developed very strong feelings for each other.
Yeah.
And now potentially might have to stop seeing each other so she can pursue that longer term thing that she wants, but it's a lot harder than either of us anticipated. Mm-hmm. And it reminds me of a lot of other relationships that I've seen where when you first meet someone, right, the first week or first month, you tend to be spending time with them because of the enjoyment of that time, right? There's no real emotional hook or codependence or addiction, right? So you're not like, oh, I want to see this person because if I don't, I'm going to feel a lack. Mm-hmm. I'm going to feel nauseous or something. You're just like, oh, I want to see this person because they make me laugh or we have good chemistry. But I see this in a lot of my friends' relationships. I see that in my past relationships. At some point, romantic relationships in particular seem to switch to this idea of, oh, being without this person would be pain. Yeah. It's not like, oh, I'd rather hang out with this person for the 5th night in a row than my friends because it'll be really fun. Some couples are like that. Mm-hmm. But it's this sense of like, oh, I wish I could spend my time differently, but I don't want to break up or risk breaking up or whatever it is. Or I don't want to be with this person. I don't want to date them. But the idea of breaking up with them creates extreme emotional pain in me.
And I think a lot of that isn't conscious because you're like, oh, I'd rather spend my time differently. I don't think people even think that. I think it's all of the I'd like to do something else is deep, deep, deep unconscious because what is so present is, oh, man, it is not fun to not be with them and to worry what could happen. But go ahead.
And so, no, my question is, how do you make your romantic relationships more pure? Mm-hmm. How do you make them more based on the carrot of seeing the person, the pleasure of their company? And how do you try to prevent this sense of, oh, now my fear with us breaking up isn't that I'll not have the pleasure of their company. It's that I get nauseous thinking about their absence because I'm basically an addict in the same way that if you take away heroin from someone, they have physical symptoms, right? The nausea, amnesia, or sorry, not amnesia, insomnia, the lack of appetite. Like these are not symptoms that you get when you're told you can't play basketball.
Unless you're addicted to basketball.
But you know what I'm saying? Like it seems to indicate to me that this relationship, and I see this in almost all relationships, has gone beyond just something that's good for you to something that you are addicted to. And I just don't know, how do you prevent that?
Well, you said it, man. I think I'm a big believer that addiction is so much more prevalent than people will ever admit. I believe that addiction runs nearly everyone's life, including my own still, and I'm trying to free myself from my various addictions. But to talk about this, I just want to emphasize what you said, which is that there are some things in the world that you could, maybe for you, not drinking for 3 months, you wouldn't blink. You wouldn't worry about it. You wouldn't worry about what you're missing out on. And maybe you still elect to drink once a week. You have a glass of wine or a beer or whatever. But the pain of not drinking is not strong. Yeah. And then there's someone else who thinks about not drinking and they go, well, I could, but oh man, that would be so bad.
No, same for me. I love surfing. I love it enough to spend hours driving to the right surf spot, right? Mm-hmm. But if you said, oh, you can't surf for a year, I wouldn't have insomnia that night and I wouldn't feel nauseous when you told me. Yeah. So that's an indication to me of like a pure desire to do something.
So do you have withdrawal symptoms when it's taken from you? Is a great question of, is this an addictive tendency?
Yeah. And those symptoms would be, I think, nausea, lack of appetite, losing sleep,
generalized anxiety about that thing. What am I going to do without this? And if you think about that, this applies to everything from relationships to food for some people, relationships for everybody. And I think the biggest one is thought. If you think what it is like to sit down and meditate and try to allow thoughts to go away, what rises other than withdrawal symptoms, anxiety, all these I gotta move, like need to get back into the world of thought. So how do you deal with that addiction? I think there's 2 ways to handle addictions and to keep relationships pure. One is to move up what I call the addiction ladder. And if you wanted to say at the bottom of the ladder are addictions that are positively life-destroying. So like heroin will just rip you apart. Yeah. But say instead of heroin, you start smoking. That's a step in the right direction.
It's an upgrade. If you can replace your heroin addiction.
Sure. And instead of smoking, you start sucking your thumb or eating too much food.
Win. Heroin addict to thumb sucker? Yeah. Big win.
Right? And at some point, people stop. I think most people stop on the ladder at relationships. They just get into a codependent relationship and they go, this is life. This is what it is. Yeah. What I don't know what is better than a relationship. I've recently posited video games are a better addiction.
I think this one depends on the person. Video game addiction has ruined lives.
Yes.
But some people can play it healthily.
So for me, I went both ways. I had the video game addiction, and then I was like, forget this. I'm going to break. I snapped my StarCraft 2 in half after an 8-hour binge session.
And I'm going to focus on charisma and relationships.
Yeah. And then I got addicted to my relationships. I went, okay, I'm back to video games. So you can move up the addiction ladder. Is one way. And then I think the ultimate thing is to figure out what is the seed of all addictions. And it's that you can view it from a number of different angles. You're not present. You're not giving yourself the love that is coming from the relationship. Whatever this thing, drugs, food, relationship, video games, is distracting you from, you haven't leaned into and faced.
Yeah. This is random. Angel, did you feel this way with your breakup? Did you have any lack of appetite or insomnia or nausea or anything like that?
Yeah, I did. And it was actually a while ago, and I still have trouble sometimes with sort of feeling like getting back to normal, because it does feel like I sort of cold turkey cut off an addiction.
Mm-hmm. So the reason I asked is because I think it's really common in relationships. Yeah. Like, I don't think this is, some small part of the population is addicted to something. I see it in my friends, my past relationships, this current relationship that I'm potentially ending, and everyone else I ask. They go, yeah, that's what a breakup is. A breakup is horrible drug withdrawal where you can't sleep and then you quickly try to replace it with like eating ice cream or having sex with a bunch of random people or some you're like, you don't replace a healthy habit aggressively with other bad habits.
Yeah.
And so my question to you is, it's so prevalent. I see it as this very, very common thing that everybody seems to be suffering from, is this relationship addiction or codependence. And I guess, one, why does that happen so frequently in romantic relationships? Mm-hmm. And then two, what can people do so that their relationship
what could my friend do?
I see this. I know what I'm screwed.
Yeah.
It's too late for me. This is true. I'm already addicted. My question is more for
other people.
Next time. Or for for everyone, I tried to prevent this. I actually knew this was coming from my last relationship, and still here I am. So it seems like it's so prevalent, and I was curious if you have advice.
Well, I can work through it with you. I think treating it as an addiction gives some insight into, okay, so let's pretend this is alcohol, and you're like, oh, wow, I'm addicted to alcohol. You're like, I've been drinking rum every night.
Yeah.
I'm going to go, rum is gone. What do you think about me going out tomorrow night with vodka?
Yeah.
I'd be like, well, that's going to stop the symptoms.
That's my go-to relationship move.
I'm going to go get...
Hold on. I've been a whiskey addict for 3 years. I'm going to try multiple different types of alcohol and see which one's not addicting.
And you can do, to be clear, you could do beer. And you can't drink beer as quickly as you can drink rum. And you might see an improvement because you just physically can't stomach as much beer.
Yeah.
And okay, that is one beginner way to handle it. Is that going to solve the problem in any sort of long-term way? Absolutely not. Will it alleviate immediate symptoms? 100%.
I kind of think that's what I'm going through now. Is for my last relationship, I was like, the best way to get rid of this relationship pain is just to date until I find someone I like. And then I did. I was like, oh, cool. I fixed that problem.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it's almost this backlog of heartache is what I'm going to have to experience.
Tequila's not good for me. Well, that rum also.
Yeah.
I haven't tried vodka.
And now I've tried vodka, and I'm like, if I stop now, I'm going to go through withdrawal for vodka, but maybe also for gin and rum.
Yeah. And so I think alcohol again. Okay, so what would you will, first off, you would have to stop hanging out with your friends that went to the bar all the time. You can't do that. So, when Henry's downstairs on Hinge swiping, it you don't want to get off of this, but for someone who did want to get off of this, it would be, okay, stop hanging out with friends that treat relationships and relationship addiction like it's something cool. Doesn't mean you have to stop hanging, and quite frankly, you wouldn't want to hang out with your casual drinking friends either who can handle it. So as someone that is not trying to get away from relationships, you want to go to a monastery. You want to hang out with people that are eschewing relationships for a while, because otherwise you're just going to be, oh God, look how happy they are. He's swiping and he's going on dates. So that would be one thing. The second is you could try the 12-step program. And I think part of what is important in that is it helps you dig out the roots of what drives you. And a lot of it for alcoholics, they find, is people that have hurt them or they've been hurt in the past, and is coming to terms and forgiving and making amends is a huge part. The other thing that they say is stepping into a view of life that has some sort of a higher power. I'm not religious, but I wonder how that applies to this, because I think when you view the world as like, oh God, I'm alone unless I'm in a relationship, it's probably very comforting to feel like, no, like I'm part of something larger.
Yeah.
Even if I'm not in this relationship.
That's what my dog is for.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. But then ultimately, I do think when I've explored deeper down the rabbit hole, when people are like, look, you want to get rid of all addictions, starting with the foundational one of thinking. We signed up for this Eckhart Tolle retreat.
Yeah, I'm excited for it.
I think that for your long term is going to be one of the better things.
It's a 6-day mindfulness retreat, right?
Yeah.
Go be silent and quiet and meditate.
Yep.
Till it hurts.
Yeah, some sort of meditative practice, including which may, in addition to some sort of therapeutic process of letting go of whatever traumas caused you to need to latch on. I think that's going to be what solves it in the long term. So yeah, it sounds like your strategy, which I would probably greenlight for most people, is treat the symptoms while creating a long-term plan to remove the foundation of addiction, which is an inability to experience discomfort now.
Yeah. Well, my first I was like, oh yeah, my last breakup with my girlfriend of multiple years, I was like, oh, this is painful. What I'll do is I'll not date anyone as a girlfriend for multiple years. I'll just have all these casual relationships. Yeah. But I think there's some part of me that's deeply hypnotized by all the Disney movies I saw as a kid, by my own parents' very happy marriage, where I still want that life partner, that long-term relationship. And so I was like, oh, I'll just date casually. That's what my front brain says. And my subconscious was like, find true love, be with her forever. Yeah. And so, yeah, it's interesting because with the same person, at one point in February, we did call it off so that she could try to pursue something that was a more traditional marriage or heading towards marriage relationship. Yeah. And I wasn't upset, actually. Mm-hmm. She brought this up. I totally forgot that it even happened. She's like, yeah, you didn't seem to care. You like held me while I cried and you just said it was going to be okay. It was for the best for me. I was like, oh, I was so selfless back then. It's like, is that how you feel now? I was like, no, not at all.
I'm completely threatened and totally selfish.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
So I don't know what happened, but yeah, that was my plan and it was going well. Yeah. And I was being very whatever's best for other people and I'm not hooked and I don't need this. But then sometime between February and October, my brain switched and put her in this person's going to make you happy forever.
Yeah.
And I think once that happens, that's when the trouble starts. When it's like, you're not enjoying this person's company for this week only or for this month only, but you've slotted this person into we'll be there when I'm old or whatever it is. And now losing that person means something besides just losing their company.
Yeah, they become an insurance policy against future pain. Mm-hmm. Even though, of course, that's absurd.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, but the underlying drive is the desire to escape pain, and which is why I think the underlying solution is to cultivate the habit of entering into whatever is present. So there's a book. It's super new agey, but I'm enjoying it. It's called Whatever Arises, Love That.
I'm glad you gave the title, by the way. Common criticism. Yeah. We mention books and not their titles.
Well, oftentimes what I do is I mention it the prior week, and I'm like, oh, that book from last week, and I forget that not everybody is.
So what's this one called?
This one is called Whatever Arises, Love That. Very new agey. Doesn't mean that I subscribe to every sentence that is written in this book, but it is just love, 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 love. And it's one of the principles, and I know you liked the one book that was basically just telling yourself, I love you, I love you, I love you.
Yeah, love yourself like your life depends on it. Yeah.
This goes, I would say, a level deeper than this. And it talks about how to handle the things that you hate about yourself. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, but here's what happens when you say I love you is you get, no, I don't, or I hate that thing, or I can't forgive that, and it talks about the complicated nature of things. And it's got an exercise in there where you say the words to yourself that you wish that you had heard from whoever you wish you heard them from. You just sit there for a minute and a half or two, and it affects you. Like if you take a deep breath, it will affect you, and you allow yourself to say it to yourself. The thesis being that whatever you think you're not getting from the world is what you are withholding from yourself. And ultimately, the key is to cultivate the habit of he's got great sentences in there, which is like, you need to give yourself what you think you need from other people that they could never hope to give you. And I do believe that is true, and I'm trying to more frequently get in the habit of recognizing. There was another thing, and we talked to, sorry, I'm all over the place.
Yeah, no.
There was, because I told you it was upsetting me, this video came out, and it's got a section on not fighting. You know, even when people fight with you, even when things are said about you, even when this, and you think you have to fight, you have to defend yourself, you have to all this. What would happen if you didn't fight? What would happen if you... what would happen inside you if you didn't do this? And they're powerful questions, man. Just like you fight and struggle and defend yourself because there's a belief that if things go the wrong way, you will suffer.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can get to the point where you go, oh, I don't need to fight, what that underlyingly asserts is that nothing can happen that can harm me. And it's not easy to stay in, but I certainly notice for the moment that it's a powerful tool. And
Sounds like a good book.
Yeah, it's I'm reading it slowly so that I do more of the exercises. But I think that's what I want to live in, is a true state of equanimity, which is when you hear these Zen masters. Oh, guess what? They tell the story. He got a horse. Is it a good thing?
Yeah.
We'll see. Oh, he fell off a horse, broke his leg. It's so bad. We'll see. Okay, he didn't get drafted in the army. We'll see. Is to not view things as good or bad, but to be present, I think is weirdly enough, I shouldn't say this, is the goal, but there is no goal.
There's no goal, but if you had a goal, if there was a future, which there's not, because I'm enlightened, but hypothetically, if I thought about the future.
Well, he talks about this. He talks about spiritual self-flagellation. And he's like, listen, many people make presence the goal, which is not the point. There is no point, and he gives you practical ways to think about that paradox of trying to be present, which is in and of itself, it's the Chinese trap. The harder you try to be present, the less you can be present. So I think you'll like it. Check it out.
Cool. I'll check it out.
What else we got? Is that it for you?
That is it for me. We got a lot of fan questions though.
Angel, what's up?
And some current events.
We have a couple current events, but one of them, you guys already talked about Facebook. I don't know if you have any more things to say about it, but I have here that they're banning ads that discourage people to vote, but they're not banning the spread of false information by politicians. I don't know if you guys had anything else to say about that.
No, I think we killed that one.
Yeah, I'm all for, unfortunately, having a place in the world, meaning the entire world, where people can be wrong and betting and praying that truth will win out in the long run, as opposed to having an arbiter of truth that is elected or otherwise. I don't think that's a good way to go. So we'll see.
Well, the other thing that I have is that there is another thing on the list of things banned in China, and that is PewDiePie.
Yes,
he was banned. He made a video about it, joking about it. He was banned for making another video where he shared Hong Kong memes, like free Hong Kong memes, and also one comparing China's president to Winnie the Pooh, which is a very sensitive issue for the Chinese government.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys had an opinion on that.
Well, funny enough, he probably has the most emotional freedom from it, in the sense that YouTube's not in China. So I doubt that this really affected his money or his fan base.
Yeah.
So I think he's in an interesting position relative to the NBA, let's say, where he can just be, he's like, oh, I'm already banned from China because YouTube's banned from China.
YouTube's banned in China. Yeah. I think with the China stuff is so interesting. I'd love to talk. I wonder how tenable this is as a long-term strategy for a government in a world where the internet and dissemination of information, and as their population gets wealthier, travel becomes, because what do you do? Okay, somebody who is a diehard Chinese nationalist goes and studies abroad, and they spend 4 years in any other country with easy access to the internet, and then they come back. I don't know how long, and it's a fascinating case study in constricting information, how long that can work.
North Korea does it because they don't allow travel, right?
Well, that's the other thing. North Korea has to put a much harder fence around things.
Yeah, I wonder what people who were born in North Korea, I'm sure there are people who have escaped and can tell you, like, what do they think the rest of the world looks like?
Oh, there's plenty of books on this. I mean, there's an entire section, and they're all bestsellers because the stories are insane. I was just looking. I was like, wow, there's so many My Escape from North Korea type books. And the stories are, then I was human trafficked, and then I was here. It's brutal to get out. But that's not the case with China. People do come in and out, not perfectly easily, but much more easily. So I wonder how solid of a long-term strategy going, oh, that doesn't exist, can be when you're allowing.
Well, it's a two-pronged strategy. It's saying that doesn't exist while also accumulating all of the world's wealth.
Yes.
So
not really. I mean, they're still not the richest country.
No, I'm just saying that's not their only plan. Yeah. Right? They're obviously trying to take over the world economically as well. So there could be a point where it's like, okay, yeah, you can know the truth. It's that we own all of America's debt, and therefore we own America.
Yeah, and until we default, we go hee sorry,
and then there's a war.
Yeah. So I don't know too much about the PewDiePie China thing. That's just my 2 cents. What else?
Do you want to go to questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, no call in today, right?
No.
So ladies and gentlemen, when you submit your question, please include
do so in the description. Number one.
Yeah, I saw people asking, how do I get a call-in question. So it's in the description. And then 2, double check your phone number, because we had an 11 or 12-digit phone number today that we couldn't call. And we wanted to. We picked the question. But, yeah, so when you submit, just check your phone number.
Here's a little bit of systems thinking for you. Maybe we should add a double confirm. Just another slot.
There you go. That's smart.
Phone number, because if it happens once, it's going to happen again.
Angel, will you do that? Will you make it so the submission form asks for the phone number twice, and they can't submit it unless the phone numbers match?
I'm gonna see if that's possible. I don't know if that's like the password thing we have to do it twice.
Yeah.
If not, so I'll try that. If not, I'll do maybe email or some sort of secondary form.
Even if you don't have to make a match, the simple act of having to write it twice will probably give us one of the correct ones.
And that you can definitely do.
Yeah,
so no call in today.
No call in.
We got some written questions.
And for that person that asked a question about morality, we were interested in your question, so resubmit with the correct phone number.
All right, what we got?
So from the YouTube comments, we have a question from None again.
None is very active.
None asks, what do you do if you don't like some people at work? They gossip, they're not honest, they're fake, but you can't avoid them, and you still have to see them and interact with them almost every day, and you can't force yourself to look pleased or happy around them, but don't want to appear obnoxious at the same time. I was told to say nice regardless and do nice things to them, but I feel like I'm doing a disservice to my values.
I'd find a job where you don't hate your coworkers. Seriously. I mean, I know it's hard. I know there's some uncertainty. It's scary. But I would try to find... There's people who go to work every day because they love their coworkers. And so if it's a real problem and you feel like you don't look forward to going to the office, I would say, can you find the same pay or even take a pay cut to improve your quality of life by working somewhere else?
Yeah, and I think that's certainly the long-term strategy, medium-term strategy is, as you're saying, you're facing, I don't feel a way, I got to put on a happy face, and that's going to eat at you. And I felt that way about putting on a suit when I was going to work. I was like, this is so false and fake. And the simple act of pretending that I cared about what everyone was talking about made me feel that way too.
Yeah, I do. 2 things I will say, because I do think this is important, is when you repress an emotion, it just stays there and then leaks out somewhere else. And it's not good for you, and it's not good for your emotional or physical health. And also when you lie, 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem is a book that we really believe is helpful. And it tells you when you lie, it eats at your self-esteem. So I would say staying in this place and biting your tongue every single day is going to teach you to bite your tongue, and it's going to give you a bunch of negative emotions that just fester in you and result in physical sickness or you taking out your negativity on someone who doesn't deserve it. So yeah, I would definitely not just put on a smiling face while you're unhappy.
So here's some practical solutions, and I'll let you decide which is most appropriate. One is to, I don't know who these people are, but to speak with them candidly about this, because this is an alternative. You don't have to put on a fake happy face. You can, hey man, could I chat with you alone, not in front of, I wanted to tell you something. You can read Radical Honesty for approaches on how to do this. Like the way that I would do it is, it's not easy to say. You're preambling in a way that opens them up, makes them receptive, but also expresses that this is uncomfortable for you. And then go specific. But when you did X, when you said this about this, it made me, then I felt like you were gossiping, and it made me uncomfortable talking to you, even in situations outside of that. So I wanted to tell you, and then you say, I want to tell you for 2 reasons. One, I would appreciate if you didn't do that thing anymore, and you can ask for a specific behavioral change. Don't say, don't be a jerk. Don't say, don't talk about people behind their back. If I'm there, I guess you might have to do it behind my back as well.
Yeah.
But second, I wanted to tell you, and this is another important part of it, because I value our relationship and I want to remain friends or comfortable and at least collegiate with you. And I didn't want this to fester inside of me and wind up with me treating you unkindly as a result of not having told you. And I know that's uncomfortable to hear, but I wanted to tell you because I respect you. And that adds context that I think softens the blow a bit. So that's one option.
Can I hop in? Because there's something you did that I want to make explicit. I think a lot of people, when they go into these conversations, they accidentally label. So they say, when you gossip, right? Which is a vague thing. Who's to define gossip? Or they say, when you're rude, which is, now you're telling this person they're rude. They can fight back or push back on those terms, right? But if you just use very specific facts, like irrefutable facts, and your own feelings, it'll help move the conversation to a useful place.
Yeah.
So rather than saying when you gossip or when you're rude, yesterday when you said this about this person, it made me feel blank.
Yep.
And that is going to make it a much more constructive conversation versus if you say when you were disrespectful to Charlie behind his back, the person's going to go, I wasn't disrespectful. And now you have to battle about whether or not what they said is disrespectful. So a good way to have these conversations be constructive is, to the best of your ability, limit it to irrefutable facts and your own feelings, which are also irrefutable.
So that's one option, is to go in with the candid thing. And the other, if you don't think it's appropriate for whatever reason, I would suggest that might be, but a completely viable option is to recognize that you're going to have relationships with people in your life that, because of the context, don't allow for full transparency. So just one example of this is if someone is on their deathbed and you found out that their husband or wife was cheating on them, you probably don't tell them, because it's like the context of this is there are more important things right now. So I don't know how much you're forced to be together, but it is totally normal to have people with whom you have only particular styles of interaction. How was your weekend? What TV show do you like? Okay, bye. And so you can cut out the portions of this that you don't want to be part of by removing yourself when they start to gossip, going back to work, doing these things.
Yeah, leaving the conversation is a totally viable option. If you don't want to quit your job, if you're like, I love what I do, but it's just these people, leaving is a totally great option. I just think staying there and nodding along while you die inside, that's the thing you want to avoid.
And trying to be like, okay, what would it take for me to enjoy my time with this person? What kind of time would we have to have, and what kind of time would I have to remove myself for, such that you create a scenario where you can look forward to seeing them, because you know that you're going to talk about the ball game or whatever it was that happened the thing before, and as soon as the other thing comes up, it's back to work. And you recognize that that is a flaw in them that you don't need to get riled up and judgmental, because guess what? If you're going to try to hold everyone accountable for the worst thing that they do, there's not going to be many people left for you to be close to. So I think that that could help as well as just going, okay, I'm going to try to draw this relationship within a certain boundary set.
Yeah. We talk about golf.
Yep.
As soon as it switches to office politics, I just bounce back to my computer.
Yep. So good luck. I hope that helps. What else?
Patrick asks, how do you two practice actively living / being in the present reality? Listening to the podcast, I hear you guys talk about free will. Compound this with the other psychology I've learned. I've recently become discouraged and confused about my own reality. For instance, when I'm sad, am I sad because of my present reality, a rumination, a psychological trigger, a habitual sadness, a pathological sadness? Is this even really sadness? And then a step further, when I somehow relieved the feeling, was that really my own willpower that overcame it, or something subconscious that I'm not aware of? Given that you two have differing views of free will, I'm curious to hear your thoughts about this. For context, I'm 21 and my family has a history of mental disorder, which is partly why it troubles me.
Got it. So I think that people are far bigger than they think. What we identify with is often the thoughts in our head, and we think that we are the creators of, or at least the arbiter of, this thought versus this thought, and I don't subscribe to that belief. I've talked about free will in the past. I won't belabor it right now. But why do you feel the way you do? I've been shocked. I mean, I've had days where I was like, I didn't want to talk to anybody. I was just not feeling confident or courageous. And I've gone the entire day until the evening, and I realized that I had a pimple on my chin. And I saw that pimple first thing in the morning, and it made me shrink from everything in the day because I didn't want to, like, and I go, wow, I saw it. I registered it. I remember having that thought and having it kind of just bubble away. And then for the rest of the day...
But you didn't know that's why you felt that way.
I didn't know. Yeah. I was just in a mood where I didn't really want to talk to anyone. I was just only this side of my face without being cognizant of it. Yeah. And I think if you pay attention to your life, you'll find that what you think are the reasons for you feeling certain ways are sometimes right, but other times there's this... childhood melancholy, or there's a pimple melancholy.
A lot of people, their dreams.
Their dream.
My sister has a hilarious story where a friend called her and she said, hey, I had a dream where you slept with my boyfriend. So I'm sorry, but I'm going to be a total bitch to you for the rest of the day, probably. So you might just want to avoid me until I calm down. Okay, it wasn't me, right? She goes, yeah, I know, but I just want to murder you. All right. And at least you're self-aware enough.
Yeah. And I think we might look at that person and go, wow, they're crazy. And really what they are is a step above most people.
Self-aware.
That recognizes the very limited domain of conscious power and control and even awareness. So why are you sad in any moment? Well, I can't tell you, and it might on occasion be you might have all the accurate triggers, but certainly the same sequence of events could happen to whatever Gandhi or to someone else and create a very different result. So okay, that's going to be the sequence of events that happened plus your past and how you relate to it.
Yeah, there was a lot in the question. I appreciate the question. Mm-hmm. Though one thing it said, if I'm sad, is it because I'm not being present? I do think most sadness is a symptom of not being present. Mm-hmm. Because if you are sad because you had a breakup, or you are sad because of something that happened at work, or you are sad, it's very infrequent that you're sad because while I sit here on this couch with the dog on my lap and I look at Charlie, something in this moment is making me sad. It's normally a future projection. Even if it's happening now, it's what does this mean for my future? Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I think oftentimes sadness has to be a lack of being present.
Sure. And so does excitement. So does thrill.
Yeah.
A lot of the emotions that we like and move towards are you can only achieve when you are not present. Mm-hmm. So I don't think I've tried. I'll tell you this. I've tried presence as the answer, and I think presence is the ultimate answer. But it's kind of like a kindergartner, and I'm the kindergartner trying to understand calculus when I try to be present. And so what I recognize is I'm going to have to go to first grade. I'm going to have to learn plus, minus. I'm going to have to do all that stuff. And for me,
state breaks. You start with state breaks and incantations. You start with, I'm feeling sad. I'm going to put on happy music. I'm going to do a bunch of jumping jacks. I'm going to ecstatic dance for 60 seconds. Yeah. And I bet that will change my mood.
I'm going to hit a punching bag. I'm going to scream. I'm going to play a video game.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying, dude, I'm not the ultimate.
I'm going to eat junk food.
Present
I'm
person.
Right?
That one thing, though, if you are sad, I really do think state breaks are incredible because a lot of times, to Charles' point, it is this something's occurring and you don't know what, and you don't know why you're sad, but you can't get out of it by thinking your way out of it. And so I would say stop trying to think your way out of it. Put on music that makes you really happy. Nothing that's about depressing stuff. Put on something that makes you want to dance, and then close your eyes and dance like a complete idiot for 90 seconds. Mm-hmm. And that's about how long it takes to kind of break you out of the funk. And by the way, you won't want to do this if you're really sad or if you're depressed. This is the thing with depression is you don't want to do the things will make you feel better. You'd rather lay around and feel bad. So I get that this advice is simple but not easy to execute. But yeah, that's funny enough. I've had that change my entire day. Where I felt down, and then I put on stupid song for 2 minutes and I dance alone in my apartment. And I go, oh, I can have a day now.
Sure.
I can have a good day now. Whereas before I was melancholy.
Yeah. And the last thing is I do think thinking gets demonized oftentimes in present, the people who advocate presence. And I think thinking is wonderful, and asking yourself these questions is great. What I would say is, in addition to all of what Ben said and I said, is to run tests and go, okay, I hypothesize that my sadness is a result of the things that happened today. So in order to test that, I'm going to do what Ben said. I'm going to just run around for 60 seconds, 90 seconds, take a run, and see if that changes it. And if that changes
Not a run, an ecstatic dance.
Ecstatic dance, pardon me. And if that changes it, well, then maybe it wasn't the events. Maybe it was the events plus my physiological state. Mm-hmm. And you can run internal tests to try to get the answer and come at it from a personal scientist. I think with all of any advice someone gives around emotional mastery, it needs to be tested because there isn't a one-size-fits-all is going to work for everybody. So, take it and try it and work for you. Unfortunately, no one can give you the perfect playbook for you. What we can offer are some very good suggestions.
Yeah. Also, I'm going to be a total hypocrite here. Yeah. Because I don't do this, but it's okay to be sad.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I'm incapable of accepting that belief, but I do know it's true. It's something I'm working on.
Whatever arises, love that.
And so, yeah, I think just because you're sad doesn't mean that you're broken, doesn't mean you're depressed. It's okay to be sad about things. I think if you find you're wallowing or you've done it to the point where you're ready to move on, then take this advice. But if you get sad for a second, don't think of yourself as an emotional failure. Mm-hmm. That's just life.
Yeah. Cool. Hope that helps. What else?
Last question we have this week comes from Pavel. Have you guys ever tried practicing thinking about death? You can find that it has many benefits. For example, in famous Steve Jobs' speech at Stanford University. What's your opinion about it?
So I have not, but I specifically flagged this because I thought it was an interesting question. Mm-hmm. I do not spend a lot of time ruminating on death. Yeah. Do you?
I spend some. I normally when chapters in my life end, when we're moving from one city to another, I think of this is a little death, and then I think of the big death. I often think of the end of things that I like, relationships being one of them. And I know that the Stoics advise contemplating your own death. So I do it somewhat. What would I say? It's a helpful perspective thing. I don't, for better or worse, think of it all the time, though I do often appreciate that when I get it, I'll make a phone call to my mom or something like that. And, what I find that it creates in me, which I don't think is the best, is, and I know a lot of motivational videos play on this, which is they trigger your fear of losing someone you love in a horrific accident. Anyone can be, it's true. Anyone can be taken at any time. Mm-hmm. And then almost as regret minimization and fear, you reflexively reach out and tell them I love you, which is a good behavior. But I paid attention the last time I watched, it was actually a Jay Shetty video. And his videos are very good at making you well up and oh God, I haven't told that person. But it made me realize that what drives me to do this a lot of the time is fear of regret, of not doing it, and not just a spontaneous internal comfort with it. So I think it's a good intermediate step to allow this death to drive you. But ultimately, like I think where I would like to get to is not having to think of death is a greater presence.
On the rare occasions where I do think of death, it always makes me nihilist.
Yeah.
Whenever I think of my own death, I just go, yeah, nothing really matters that much. Like this is the big landmark takeaway too. It's just like all this fuss.
Yeah.
All this fuss. And you're just gonna die. So maybe fuss less.
Yeah.
That's really my super simplistic reaction whenever I do think, oh, I could die tomorrow, or even I could die in 70 years.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, in 71 years, then this won't be something you fuss about. So maybe just chill.
Yeah. Which is, I think, why people advise that practice.
Yeah.
Summer's
you like this?
Great time.
This is great podcast. She's not on the camera.
She's yanking the leash for those of you who can't see what Ben holds up.
People just well, she's not even wearing the leash. She's just using the leash as a toy.
Yeah, as a
but for the watchers, it just looks like I have a small seizure in my shoulder as she kind of like pulls it. She's done much better than the first episode we had her.
Yeah, she's twice the size.
She's doing much better.
I'll bring my dog on next time.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
That'll be chaos. He's a bit too much. But anyway, I think that's it.
Yeah, that's all I got.
If you guys want one request, for those of you who have made it to the end, thank you. I know we often get comments about this. I was pleasantly surprised. We had a 2.5-hour podcast last time, just because I guess we had a lot to say. Let us know what parts you like. I was surprised that people, I was like, this is too long. But I was pleasantly surprised that people liked it, though I couldn't identify what people liked about it. And I'm still new to this medium.
Yeah, when we released it, we thought, oh man, people are going to get bored. And some people said it was the best episode we've had.
Yes.
So we want to talk. We talk all the time. Charlie and I talk for hours every day. We want this conversation to be something that you guys enjoy. So it's helpful if you let us know what parts you like the most, what other topics you'd want to hear us talk about.
Trust me, because that's the thing. Ben and I will probably have 2.5 more hours of conversation today.
Yeah.
And I promise you won't want to hear all of it, but we could bring in things that we're not sure that you have enjoyed in the past. So let us know specifically what moments or what topics, and we can hopefully do more of them. So
good idea.
Thank you, my friends. We'll talk to y'all soon.
All right, we love you.
Have a wonderful day. Peace.